Hello, I'm Javier Gomez, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
Let's go.
Javier Gomez-Noya, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thank you, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Well, my gosh, you have been on the wish list for this show really since show inception. This show is so heavily focused around endurance athletes, and of course, it cannot be a complete conversation without at some point featuring your career highs, lows, and learnings. There's few careers like yours. Just remarkable. And the most exciting part is it's not over yet. There's still more chapters to be written.
Well, yes. I mean, it's been a long career so far. It's been many years, about 20 years of racing at the highest level. And that's actually what I'm most proud of. You know, I've raced against different generations of great athletes and, older than me, my age, younger than me. And I'm still performing. I'm still enjoying it. And, with some ups and downs as always. But, I've been pretty consistent and through different distances. And I'm still loving the sport. That's why I keep doing it. I'm still having a lot of fun.
And anyone that knows you, Javi, would attest that you do not look a day older than you did when you started your career. You have the eternal youth, calculation down, the elixir. What is it?
I wish, but inside it's not. When you wake up in the morning and it's like, this ankle just died, this knee is hurting a bit, my hip. It takes it takes a while to get the body going, but I can't complain though. After all the kilometers I've done and all the racing, all the trips around the world, the body's still not too bad. That's why I'm still doing it, but it's definitely not as when I was 25 anymore. Although I had a few injuries when I was 25, so I guess pretty much the same.
I the first time I ever saw you or met you in person, Javi, was Auckland 2012. I was there for the age group World Championships, and we went to a little sushi shop, a mate of mine around the corner underneath the bridge, basically. And sure enough, there was Javier Gomez, and we were both a little bit fanboyish and starstruck. But you're one of the most casual, calm, kind guys on the circuit. And that was a big battle royale with Jonny Brownlee that weekend there on the streets of Auckland 2012, just after the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I remember that race. I remember that sushi place because I had lunch before the race, I think it was lunch. And then it went well. So the next year in 2013, 14, and 15, I kept the same routine. I went to the same place for sushi before the race. And that's my best race ever. I won there in 2012, 13, 14. I think I was second in 2015. So I love that course. I love racing in the middle of Auckland. The atmosphere was great. And but that year, 2012, I remember was after the Olympics and it was a rainy day. It was not very nice, but I was a bit tired from all the season, but it was one of still today. I'm not sure if it was one of my best performances, but it was really exciting because I'm not that type of sprinter, fast guy. I lost many sprints before, so beating Jonny there in the final few hundred meters in the grand final felt really good. So I had great memories of that race.
It was off the back of the 2012 London Olympic Games, where obviously you picked up the silver medal and split the Brownlee brothers, Alistair for the gold, Jonny for the bronze. And there was such a buzz coming off that about the sport of triathlon. It's been said many times, but London really felt like the coming of age of the sport, the showcasing of just how talented yourselves as athletes are. And, the run times I've heard you reference over the years that, and Alistair and Jonny, that, they were some of the best run splits we've ever seen off the bike. London 2012 was just remarkable. And you have said that there was only really one medal up for grabs. The Brownlee brothers were going to be on that podium. And talk us through your recollection of London. I mean, what a day.
Well, what a day. What a great event. Everything. Olympics are always special, but in London, the atmosphere, the crowd, the people cheering, obviously with the two Brownies racing at home. I remember going for a warm up before the race, doing my routine, 3 hours before the race or 3.5 hours. I went for an easy jog around Hyde Park because I was staying in a hotel there. And there was there were people waiting already at the fences. I thought there was another event going on, and they were actually waiting for triathlon to start. I had never seen anything like that before. It was like, wow, this is going to be big. And and then I performed well. I had also a lot of pressure. Obviously, the Brownies had a huge amount of pressure, but in Spain, I was supposed to get a medal as well. After my fourth place in Beijing 4 years before, and but I dealt pretty well with that pressure. I knew I was very fit. I knew I could perform well, and I think I didn't really make mistakes in that race. I mean, many others I made so many mistakes, but in that one, I was second out of the water. I was where I had to be on the bike, controlling the situation for the whole ride, and making sure that neither of the Brownies would break away or tag or put me in a difficult situation. And then I had a good T2. I ran the best I could, 29:14. And I just, the last 3K, I was a bit short of energy and I couldn't, go as fast as Alistair. But I'm really happy and proud with that performance and with my silver medal there. I think those years, 2011, 12, 13, 14, I don't know, maybe because I was in both seasons from a different perspective, but triathlon was in Olympic distance was at its peak. I think now there are guys that can go that fast, really great athletes, and the level is going high. But I don't know, those performances, we were running consistently in low 29 minutes before the carbon shoes and all that, So maybe now there's a bit more fight in the swim, and there are better swimmers, and the bike is a bit more nervous than it was before. But those years were great, and I'm privileged to be part of them.
Yeah, well, special memories. And I think the triathlon world, Javi, felt for you then in 2016 when you were one of the race favorites, and the news came through that you were out with a fractured elbow on a bike fall, and no one felt good about that. Everyone wants to have the best on the start line. What was the mechanism for that? It was a training ride, I believe. Quite a low key incident.
It was a training ride. We were in a training camp in a town not far from my place, actually, and it was literally 200 meters before the end of the ride. I just had to go up a little hill to get to my apartment, and somehow my chain got stuck, and I was standing on the pedals, and I was probably 14K an hour, not faster than that. And I just fell off the bike in a bad position, and I hit my elbow. It didn't feel that bad at the beginning, and as it was going very slow, I thought probably nothing. And I remember I got home, and there was an anti-doping officer waiting for me for a doping control. So I went through the whole procedure with some ice on my elbow. But when we finished the doping control, I couldn't really move it, and said, I think I have to go to the hospital. This doesn't look good. And it was confirmed that I had a fracture, and I knew straight away that I was out of the Olympics. This was 3 or 4 weeks before, so there was no way that I was going to be back in time or fit enough to compete. So it was very hard because I really liked that course in Rio. I won the test event the year before, and I felt great, and I had trained very well. I was fit. I was ready for it, but certain things you can't really control, or what. That's the way it was. I was very frustrated for a couple of days, and I got out of the hospital. I was still frustrated at home, but I guess to a point that it's like, well, you just have to keep going. There's nothing you can do really. I can stay here at home, sit on the couch and be angry and mad at the world, or just try to recover. I actually have a lot of work to do to recover my elbow. As you know very well, it's not an easy injury to get all the mobility and the strength. So I needed some good rehab, and so I just focused on that. I watched the race on TV, and life goes on. Not much more you can do.
Gosh, I was going to ask, did you watch the race? And I understand you'd have to, but it must have been more painful than pushing yourself to the limits, being there to physically race it, right? The mental anguish.
Yeah. The first days after the crash, I didn't want to watch the race, but after a few days, you assume it, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna watch and see what's gonna happen there. And it went exactly as I thought it was gonna go. As it was, everyone thought that it was gonna be the race plan. like a faster swim, breakaway on the bike with the Brownlees and other good swimmers, bikers, and making a gap with some of the other best runners. Yeah, that was my racing plan as well. I expected to be in that group and then, try to run the best 10K I could possibly run. But yeah, first thing, you want to win a medal at the Olympics, you have to be at the start line. That's the first step you have to take, and I wasn't there, so there's not much I could do. But yeah, I just watched the race on TV.
Yeah, I mean, and to your credit, you push on and focus on the next event, the next goal, Javi, and your Olympic career. I think it's worth pointing out you potentially could have raced in the Athens Olympic Games. However, you missed selection because you were embroiled in a controversy around your heart condition, I believe, with your federation. You battled with that for years. Yeah. And so you missed Sydney. You missed Athens, wasn't it, as a result? And then obviously you were there for your fourth place in Beijing, coming into that finish line with the four of you, yourself, Bevan Doherty, obviously Jan Frodeno, and who else was running to the line? My relationship with Olympic Games is a bit bittersweet. I had a great time in London, but for different reasons, sometimes because of my fault. I think, for example, in Beijing, it was my fault. I got injured before the race. I was pushing too hard. Probably I was too excited. I wanted to be really fit. I came from winning pretty much every race before that 2008 season, all the World Cups. This is before the World Series. I was winning all the races. I went to Moldova, I went to New Plymouth, I went to then Hungary, another one, and I won, and Madrid, Spain, I won as well. And I won the World Championships before the Olympics as well. It was a one-day race in Vancouver. And after that race, I started to feel a niggle and a little bit of pain around my Achilles tendon, my heel bone. I wasn't sure what it was. But I thought, okay, I have 1 week off now after the World Championships in Vancouver. Now I'll be fine. I'll keep with my preparation. But it never really went away. And it got to a point that I needed to train. I didn't have much more time. And there was they told me it was the Achilles tendon, but it ended up being a stress fracture in my heel bone. And yeah, I did what I could. I trained with pain every day. The physiotherapy did their best to tape properly the food so I could kind of keep training, but I wasn't running as much as I wanted to, or as comfortable as I wanted to. So I went to Beijing. I did the best race I could, and it was a fourth place, which is a very painful one, especially when you want to win or you think you can win the race, and you end up finish fourth. But as I say, that was probably my fault in the preparation. But before that, in Athens, it was more like a political decision from the federation, which was, I said it back then, I still say it now. I think it was completely unfair because I had proved in the World Championships in 2004, I was eighth, being the youngest guy on the start line. And second Spaniard, we had Ivan Raña, who was World Champion in 2002. But I should have gone to the Olympics, and they just decided to do a team for Ivan and take two domestics. So I was out, and then that was happened. Then it was Beijing. Then London, it was great. Then a bike crash in Rio, and then a bad race in Tokyo after a bit of an illness. So I was a bit sick before that race, and I couldn't perform at my best level either. So yeah, Olympics were not my best races. I'm glad I have a medal because I think I deserved it after all these years. But I think I could have done better. Oh gosh, and I think it's, for those that don't know that chapter of your earlier career, it's worth highlighting. And you mentioned Ivan Raña, who finished fifth at the Sydney Olympic Games for triathlon's debut at the Olympic level, and I believe he was an inspiration for you as a junior athlete. One of the reasons you really took to the sport, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And he actually lived 50K away from my house, so we were almost neighbors. And I grew up in a small town where triathlon didn't even exist. People didn't know what triathlon was. I was a swimmer, and when I started to do triathlon, you don't have big ambitions when you are from a small place where that sport is not popular at all. You definitely don't dream of being a world champion or something like that. That didn't happen where I grew up, in any sport really. But suddenly this guy who is 4 years older than me is doing the same thing, and he's performing well with the juniors. And suddenly he goes to the Olympic Games in Sydney, and he finishes fifth. And we were all watching in the middle of the night that race, and it's like, well, if he can do that, maybe I can do as well. It's not impossible. This is not only a Aussie thing or British Americans. Now in Europe we can also do well. This guy can do it, and maybe I can as well. So it was a big inspiration, and I got to meet him. I got to train with him when I was a junior, and he actually, when he won the World Championships, the months before, I was at his house training with him and trying to learn as much as I could. And it was a great learning experience. It was very good for me in my younger age.
Because you were circa 17, I believe, when the Sydney Olympics triathlon debuted at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the 90s as a student, as a child of the triathlon boom in the 90s here in Australia. And, loving Brad Bevan, going to battle with the F1 series here in Australia at the time. I imagine you must have been looking on from afar in Europe at what was happening with that domestic racing scene at that point, Javi?
Yeah, I was following that domestic scene, but also following, the world level triathlon. We had the World Cups that were broadcast in Eurosport back then. And, seeing Brad Bevan, Chris McCormack, Chris Hill, Greg Bennett, all these guys competing. But for me, it was like, they were like superhumans, it was not something that I was, that I thought I could do, It's like, this is really cool. I'm starting to do the sport that I like, and these are the top athletes. I guess like if you watch a football game and you see Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, the big, football players, and it's like, you just watch it and you enjoy it, but you don't expect to be like them or anything like that. But yeah, I was following triathlon also in Europe, and and since an early age, I started to perform well, but I never really believed that I could be that good until I started to get results, obviously.
Yeah, which I think the world, it's fascinating. You look at your resume as per your bio, and 7 to 8, we obviously have to include the XTERRA World Triathlon Championship there, which you won on your debut for your cross triathlon debut, which is remarkable. You would expect that an athlete like yourself always had confidence that you were going to be world class, but you were in some ways, I guess, a late bloomer, weren't you? Missing that early Olympic selection period with the heart challenge that you had. You've almost grown into your belief and confidence.
Yeah, but I guess I was so close to stop doing sport for so many times in my early days that I never really believed. Even though as a junior, they wouldn't take me to the World Championships because I wasn't allowed to race because of this heart problem, which wasn't such a thing. But anyway, I wasn't allowed to compete and represent Spain. So even though I was winning all the races nationally and beating all the guys that were going to the World Championships, I never believed that I was that good because, I wasn't going to race anyway. And then I missed the first Olympics, and, I had a few setbacks that always kept me grounded, which I think in the end it was a good thing. And I gained that confidence through, racing, getting results, and through my training. If I'm well prepared for a race, I'm confident and I know that I can do well. But I think I'm very realistic, and I know that if I haven't trained very well, if I'm not well prepared, I'm not saying, I'm good anyway, I'm going to win anyway. Like, no. Well, I know that if I want to win, I have to go through a process of a lot of training and do things right, and then I'm prepared and I think I can win, and then I'm confident. If I don't do all that, I'm not really. So, but you learn through experience. And I remember being very nervous at the beginning of my races, competing as a junior, even an Auckland race was really stressful for me. And, the last few years is going to finals of the World Championships or 70.3 Worlds is just another day. Not another day, it's a special day because it's a race, but I don't feel extra nervous or anything. I'm ready to do my job, and I do it the best I can.
Yeah, when you observe you at a start line or before a major championship, there's a calmness about you. Is that felt internally as well, or are there still nerves there as expectation?
There are always nerves. I mean, I'm generally a calm person, and even under stress, I might look calm, but I'm always nervous before a race. And if an athlete tells you that he's not nervous for a race, it's lying. That's not true. Everyone, and it's a good thing. You just need to turn into something positive, excitement, and not something that blocks you. But unless you're dead, you're going to be nervous before a big race because it's a big deal in the end.
Yeah, exactly. Can you remember your first triathlon? Like, what was it? You came from a swim background, I believe, and used to, if the reports are true, at some point as a junior, you used to run 10Ks to the pool and back. Is that true, or is that just legendary hearsay?
Sometimes. No, not always, but it's true that in the summer during the school holidays, and there was a time that the swim club we didn't have like a proper training. Let's say, it was just to keep fitness. So me and a friend of mine would go from my house running to the pool just with the goggles and swim cap and speedos and a t-shirt and swim and come back. Right, we did it a few times, but not all the time, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it was something. I was always a very active kid, and I would ride my bike for hours without, not for training, just because I liked it. Or I would watch the Tour de France and just take my bike and ride and imagine that I was Miguel Indurain back then, or the great cycling champions. So yeah, I always loved endurance sports, and I was quite a decent swimmer, but I think I was not big enough or strong enough to be world class or something like that. I got to the nationals. I finished sixth as a junior in Spain, which decent times, but definitely not world class. But I discovered triathlon in 1998, and I didn't really know what it was, but some friends from my swim club told me there was happening this triathlon not far from where I lived. So I decided to give it a go, as I liked running and cycling and had no idea. I remember lacing my shoes in transition two, getting ready for the run. And it was an Olympic distance race, and I was only 15 years old. But there were no triathlons for kids or anything. This was the distance. If you want to do it, you do it. And so it was a tough day, but I liked it, and I felt that even though without much cycling and running training, I had some, talent or whatever, but I was comfortable doing that, and I saw that I have a lot of room for improvement. So that was a good experience. Yeah.
And 20 years on, as you say, multiple generations of athletes coming and going, you are still at it, and with passion as well. And it's a new chapter for you, looking into the long course. New chapters bring with it change. You're now being coached by former expert edition guest of the show multi times, friend of mine, Dan Plews, there from New Zealand. It's been a big change. You were with your former coach for, I believe, many years, may have been near a decade. How's the transition been? You're certainly not a guy that is unloyal. You're a very consistent guy, but obviously this is a new chapter looking ahead with big goals, right?
Yeah, but I knew I needed that change even before the Olympics. The outcome of that race was not great. But if I want to keep going as a professional athlete, I need to do changes just to keep my motivation, to explore new ways to improve, to be more efficient, especially stepping up to long distance, which is something that I'm not very experienced at. I know how to train for Olympic distance, even maybe just from experience, I know what works for me, and it have worked for many years, and I know what I have to do. You can change coaches and you can improve or not, but for long distance, I was a bit lost in the way, and I don't have much time. I'm 38 years old. I don't want to mess around much, and so I decided, so who can help me to do that, and there are obviously lots of great coaches out there. But yeah, I heard an interview of Dan, and I did my research, and I thought it was a good fit for me, and someone with the knowledge, with the expertise, with experience, and it could be something very positive. So I got in touch with him, and he was very, very keen to, and he saw that I could, do good things in long distance, even though I'm not that young anymore. So we started working together, and it's been great so far. I mean, I'm learning so much from everything about myself, on training, and I think his training sessions are great as well. And I'm working on my weaknesses and trying to keep my strength as well at a good level. And I'm enjoying the process, which is something that I needed after so many years doing kind of the same thing and ITU, the same type of races and same type of training, the same people. And I'm great friends with my former coach, Carlos. He was a friend before my coach, and he's still my friend, but we both needed a change and something normal. I think if you want to keep growing, keep improving, sometimes you have to take those steps. And now working with Dan is going great. Regardless of the results we're going to get, I don't know, hopefully very good ones, but I'm enjoying the process, and that's also very important for me.
Yeah, absolutely enjoying it. You mentioned your weaknesses and strengths, and you're learning a lot through working with Dan Plews. What are you learning, Javi?
Well, more things about long distance, how important nutrition is during training and also for the race. That's something that you don't really look into in short distance. And he is very important. And all the work on the bike, really specific, all the strength and endurance sessions, all the long rides and all the specific workouts and on the trainer, are very, very specific. I guess before that, I used to do more specific stuff on the run, and the bike was, I was okay doing a couple of things here and there and a couple of sprints and sometimes a tempo, but I was more focused on, my track sessions and have my running fitness really high. But now the bike is really important, and not only to be faster on the bike, but if I want to run well, a marathoner, the only way to run a marathon or an Ironman is slow. Everyone runs slow. For a professional athlete running at 350, 345 pace or 340, it's actually a slow pace, but you have to do it for so long and after 5 hours of racing. So you need to be really strong on the bike for that and have a really good endurance, and really good muscles to be able to carry you for such a long way on the run. It's not about speed anymore. But I'm learning different things, and I think I'm adapting quite well to the new training. I can see improvements, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you recently had a win there in Chile, Ironman 70.3, Pucon. And obviously you had your debut in long course Cairns 2018, I believe it was, head-to-head battle with Braden Currie. There's something about you and the Kiwis, Javi, and Jenkins, your wife, and some great battles with them over the time, the Kiwi folk. But that was a stunning debut. You ran 2:41 in the humidity of Cairns, head-to-head with Braden Currie. I think the triathlon world stood up and noticed that one.
Yeah, I mean, in 2018, I knew I was, my ultimate goal was still Tokyo, but I needed a change. I needed a year of doing something different because, again, I had been doing the same thing for a long time. So I focused a bit more on long distance, middle distance, and I didn't train super specific, but I, tried to have fun and to do some different things. And that first race in Cairns, it was pretty good. I mean, I'm happy with my performance. We're 7:56 on that course, which is not particularly fast. And that Braden had a great day, and we were running shoulder by shoulder. And remember, we both started too fast for the first half marathon. I think went in 1:15 for the first half marathon. And I look at my watch and it's like, I think we're both gonna blow up, but see who lasts a bit longer. and he's a bit more experienced, and just my muscles after 33K into the run, they were too sore to keep the pace. I wasn't feeling like empty or flat energy wise, but just my legs were so sore. And I had to slow down. And it was a pretty good one for the debut, I guess. I would have loved to win, but Braden had a great day. Yeah,
gosh. And from there, you went to Hawaii that year, the same year that your now coach, Dan Plews, had great success and set the age group world record in Hawaii that year. You finished 11th, and the triathlon world watched on with great interest. There was expectations, but there was also the understanding that not many people get Hawaii at an elite level, even Olympic medalists like yourself, bang on your first outing. That was a pretty tough day at the office.
Yeah, the Hawaii is a different animal. It's a different race. The conditions there, and obviously the pace, the level is so high, and people take risks on the bike, And there are only a few that don't die after that hard ride, and those are the ones who perform, and they still run at 240, 242, 243, which for people that I'm pretty sure they are capable of run much faster than that. But the bike is always so hard that, you know, it's just a survival marathon, and a marathon in Hawaii is a long way to survive, you know. So I knew that I was going too hard on the bike, especially after 100K, but I wanted to stay in the lead pack. And I thought, okay, I came here. I want to learn. I want to see what it takes to win this race. You know, I want to be close to the front of the race and see what numbers I need to hold for the next time that I come here. And so, yeah, and the last 30, 40K of the bike, I was there trying to keep up with those guys. Some other rookie mistakes. I missed a couple of aid stations, and I was thirsty. And then, yeah, when you are a bit dehydrated, it's really hard to recover from that. And I started the marathon like feeling horrible. But I guess as the pace you want to run is not that high, you can do it for 10, 15K. You know, you run that 3:45 pace, and you're not feeling good, but you can do it. But it gets to a point that, yeah, I started to slow down, and I feel horrible, and had stomach problems, and, you know, all the problems in the world. The last 10K were just a run walk to make it to the finish line. But as I said, it was a good learning experience. I mean, I still beat Dan, which is a good thing, I guess. I still have a faster time than him, but he ran faster than me that marathon.
I think you beat him by 13 minutes that day, if my calculations are correct.
Yeah. It's good that it was not 45K on the run or something. Yeah, but it was a good learning experience, and I realized that there's a special race that has to be prepared properly. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm capable of winning that race or not, but I know for sure 100% that I can do better than what I did in 2018, and that's my goal, you know. And actually, I think I can do much better than that, and see where that puts me, you know. But I'm still, my mentality since I started to win races back in 2004, 2005 is always winning. You know, when I go to a race, I don't race to get second. I might not be the most aggressive guy when I talk before the race, or you know, or in social media or anything like that, but my goal is always winning, because that's what I've been doing for very much my whole career. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much, but I've always been there. So obviously, if I go to Kona again or to any other big race, my mindset is going to be trying to win the race. So that's what keeps me motivated and fired. Yeah.
And looking ahead to 2022, the new calendar year, what are the target races, Javi, for you?
Yeah, well, the first big one, which is going to be a good test, is St. George World Championships. It's going to be a bit of a different year with 2 World Championships in 1 year. But yeah, definitely give it a try in St. George. I already raced in Pukon, and we might just focus on training now from now till St. George, and try to have a good one there. And as Dan said, you know, since we started training, it's good to do St. George, but, you know, that doesn't have to be your main focus. We need longer time to work and to get you strong. So probably and hopefully Kona will be a better race for me, and that's the goal. You know, both World Championships this year, and in the middle we'll choose the races that we need as a preparation. As I did Pukon, and between St. George and Kona we might choose a couple of 70.3s or even an Ironman. We don't know yet. Depends how things go and how the body's coping, but those are going to be the main goals.
And you just finished a training block up at Sierra Nevada, I believe. There's a bit of talent running around up there. Yourself, the Norwegians. You know, it's a place to be. Yeah. What are you learning about working at altitude? Obviously, getting ready for St. George there. Yeah,
well, that's something that we introduced this year, pretty much for the first time in my career. Yeah. It sounds crazy, but and now that I think it's something that I should have done before, because especially for high intensity racing would have been good. But as I said, I was getting great results, and, you know, the way I was doing things was working very well for me. So I didn't want to make big changes, but now I was more open to do those changes, and it was great. We got some good data after I did already two training camps in Sierra Nevada, and it's a great place. There's not much to do up there, but you have everything you need, you know. So you're focused on your training, and it's true that you have to go down the mountain for some rides, It takes a bit of logistics, but I really like it there, and it definitely makes you fit. It's hard. I mean, especially that pool at 2,400 meters altitude. It's hard to breathe up there. But it's pretty good, and yeah, I felt really good after the first training camp, and now also after the second. So we might go back again before St. George one more time. And as you said, yeah, lots of great athletes there. It's very inspiring. Not only the Norwegian triathletes that they seem to live there, they spend there a lot of time. But recently, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, we just broke the 1,500 meters indoor record. He was training there when I was there last time as well. So great runners, great swimmers, world-class athletes, and truly professional. So it's good to be surrounded by this kind of atmosphere as well. So it's pretty cool.
You use the word professional there. It's certainly a word that I think anyone that has observed your career and how you've gone about it would label you highly professional. Where does that come from? Like, is it just innate, or have you been well coached on that, or is it just that you're such a respectful guy that people invest in you? You want to honor that investment.
Well, I don't know. I definitely wasn't coached about that. I think that's the way I am. That's the way I was before doing sport, and I understand when you're successful, it's easy to lose your ground a little bit sometimes when everyone tells you that you are amazing, that you're really good, you're winning races, you start to earn money, and you can lose it a little bit, and it's normal that you like the tension as well, from media, social media, and all that. And probably when I was in my early 20s, I was enjoying that, and that was something really cool. But it gets to a point that I'm still the person that I am, and I enjoy. I met so many people with different interests that approaches you because of their own interests and stuff like that. I really appreciated true friends and the people who really who's there, in the good and bad times. And I'm not really willing to. I'm not the type of guy who wants to be in the spotlight now that much. I enjoy if I win a race, and I'm happy to do interviews and talk to the media and be on TV. It's pretty cool. But I don't need that for my ego or anything like that. I'm happy with the person that I am, regardless of my achievements in triathlon.
Yeah, wow, absolutely, Javi. And your World Triathlon Series racing career is potentially or likely under wraps now after Tokyo. You posted there on reflections from Tokyo that you felt flat, you had nothing to give. You said you're not going to bore readers with reasons and justifications. In elite sports, results are what matters, and today you weren't good enough. But then, as per Javier Gomez, the Javi that everyone knows and loves, you're very gracious in acknowledging the podium place getters, Christian Blumenfeld, Alex Yee, and Hayden Wild. Briefly, Tokyo, done and dusted, but it was a tough day, right? Just it wasn't that you weren't heat acclimated. Yeah. You were prepared for the heat, just didn't go well on the day per expectations.
No. Yeah, no, and I understand that some people might think, oh, okay, I'm a bit old to race ITU, and some people remember telling me, it's okay, it's a pretty good achievement to make it to the Olympics at your age, and be there in the race. Well, I wasn't training for that, really. I know how I was training, and I know how fit I was. I know I was in Cozumel, which was actually way hotter than in Tokyo, which in the end it wasn't that hot, or not as hot as we all expected. I was doing like good rides and running off the bike 7K at 2:40, 2:54, 2:55 pace, kind of consistently in extreme heat. So I was feeling prepared and ready. But yeah, I got to Tokyo, and I felt okay for the second day, and then I started to have some ear pain. I didn't know what it was, and it turned out to be an ear infection. It gave me a bit of a fever for 2-3 days, and then I was kind of fine the couple of days before the race. But when I pushed a little bit, the body didn't feel the same, and I have this Oura ring which checks my heart rate during the night and everything, and my heart rate was higher than normal in the mornings, and that's not a good sign. Something, my body was fighting, something was struggling. And yeah, so I went to the race. I just felt flat. I could go at a certain pace, but when I tried to push hard, I had a horrible swim. Then on the bike, my only chance was to work hard, and luckily Gustav Iden was there and Mario Mola was there, and we could make it to the first group. But I burned all my matches there, and then I ran what I could. But it was a bad day, but which sucks because I know that I was capable of doing much better than that. I'm not gonna say that I was gonna win that race because that's very difficult, and I'm actually a big fan of the guys at the front. They did an amazing race, and it's really cool to see this new generation. As a sports fan, I'm going to keep enjoying the ITU racing, but for sure I could have been much better than what I did. But again, that's racing. You have to be good on that day. I mean, I'm sure that there were other athletes with problems, other people with injuries or illnesses. You go through lots of different problems in your preparation. So it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, but what I mean, as always, you did your best, and you look ahead from there. And I remember Tommy Zafiris sharing that the Olympics are so brutal. There's really only 3 people that are ever probably pretty happy with their race: the podium place getters, and to some degree, the rest of the field's dealing with some level of unmet expectation or disappointment, right? As per yourself, one of the greatest athletes of all time in the endurance sports world, and your Olympic career, it's just so hard to get right on that day. Yeah,
it's really hard. And if you get it right, you get a medal like I got in London. Everything is fantastic. Everything is great. And, you're going to be in your country on the media, TV, and you get lots of opportunities and everything. But it's true what Tommy Zafiris said. I mean, I was 4th in Beijing, and 4th is horrible. I struggled more with that 4th place than with this result in Tokyo, actually, because I was really close to the medals there, and I missed them. And also the media was really, really tough on me, especially in Spain, and it was hard to handle for me, and I struggled a little bit. But that's the Olympics. That's a special thing of the Olympics. It could be great or it could be bad, but most likely I'm not going to be good unless you medal.
Oh, gosh, such a pressure cooker. There's a few listener questions that have come through. A bit of a fun one here from Sam. She asks, who would you want to perform with? The endurance world knows that you're a musician as well, and a talented one. Who would be your dream guest? Who would you want to appear with, rock star wise, Javi?
Oh man, I have to choose one. I like kind of rock and roll music. I like to perform with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, actually. If I had to choose one. For example, I like those guys. I watched them live a few times, and I really like the guitar player. Yeah.
We'll knock out John Frusciante, hey, and put Javier Gomez in there. I think, Well, as you know, I know Flea's quite a keen runner there in LA, so perhaps you can take him for a bit of a run on his next.
I'd love to meet them. Yeah, hopefully they have a bit of a healthier life now than a few years ago. That they get fit. Yeah,
it's brilliant. Question came through, which I guess everyone wants to know about, but from Kate. What are your tips for longevity at the top? I mean, as a sports physio, I look at your career, and yes, there's been injuries, but it hasn't been plagued by injuries. There's been the misfortune of your accident before Rio and your heel injury before Beijing. But what are your keys? Is it just good genetics? Can't be.
Yeah, well, there are a few keys for longevity. Well, first of all, it has to be the mental part, and you still have to be motivated. You still have to love it. You still have to be hungry for getting results, which is not easy sometimes. After my case, after 20 years and having so many highs in your career, so many wins, world titles, and all that, keep the same passion and motivation. Because I know to win, all and each of those world titles, I had to put a lot of work, a lot of passion, a lot of dedication, and that's the only way to do it. And so keeping that for a long time is not easy, but if you're still motivated, if you're still passionate about what you do, I think age is not a problem to a certain number. And then it's the physical aspect as well, that I guess the luck is a part of it. There's some people tend to get more injuries and they struggle more with injuries in their career, even though I know great athletes who do all the recovery really well, work really well in the gym, great physio treatments, and still get injured, and sometimes I guess genetics has an important role as well. But looking after your body is really important. And I see it now, I need to recover better after sessions, put my legs in cold water after a hard run, use the boots a little bit more, compression boots after good rides, and work more with the physio, which I was a bit hopeless at the beginning. My career, I didn't pay much attention to all that. And I understand that it's important, and, just to be able to keep training, to keep doing the program. If you're healthy and if your body's okay, I proved myself last year, even though I didn't perform at the Olympics, I was doing some of my best times on the track, running for training for 10K, or now I see that I'm improving on the bike, working properly. So I think, or other guys, you see Jan Frodeno, who's dominating long distance, and he's 40 years old, and he seems to be performing better than ever, in his last few races. So I think you can still be good at a older age, but you need to keep a few things on track. Your motivation and the physical aspect, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the world's accepting of great performances from athletes into their late 30s and early 40s now, particularly in endurance sports. There's so many great case studies out there. Nathan asks, Javier's high performance and consistency over a very long period. Nathan would be interested to hear the intensity distribution of Javier's training. Obviously there's a lot of talk about polarized approaches, and there's many variations of that, but this is a new era for you, long course, but what would you say your intensity distribution is like in general terms?
It's hard to say in person. I never train very polarized. I always say that I train polarized in a way that I go really hard when I have to go hard, and medium hard when I have to go easy. So I don't really train much slow, Yeah, but I know, I'm training here sometimes with Mario Mola, a good friend, and he trains more polarized. The easy runs, he goes quite easy, and he's able to run very fast. But my normal runs, an easy run, I never go slower than 4 minute pace, or just maybe just one day if I'm too tired or something. But I try to keep moving. My heart rate's always quite low, so I try to stay in the zone that I have to be, and that puts me running a 340 pace or 335, 345. But now obviously I'm doing less pure intensity, especially on the run, and I'm more focused on the bike. And in terms of percentage, I don't know, maybe 70% of the training is more base, like zone 2 type of training, and then the other 25% higher than that.
Oh, thanks, Javi, for sharing. It's a challenging question because obviously it varies throughout the season as well. But nice to get to hear your approach. Performance round. You ready to whiz through these, Javi? You've already done a good day of training, but here's another session you can chalk up. Here we go. Training session most disliked.
Long swim.
Long swim. Training session most loved.
It used to be a track session, but I think not anymore. A hard section I used to enjoy, but now it's a bit painful. But I still love it. If I have a good day, I love running fast. Yeah,
you got to have those good days to enjoy them. Favorite pre-race meal? What fuels you? Is there a consistent meal over the decades?
Well, sushi used to work quite well around that time in Auckland when you saw me there. That was a pre-race meal sometimes. But yeah, something simple, something rice or some chicken, eggs, something like that. Yeah, I'm not super picky with food. I don't need to eat the same thing all the time before a race. I'm quite flexible. Quite
relaxed. Who's the athlete Javier Gomez most admires and why?
I always admired Miguel Indurain, the cyclist from Spain who won 5 Tour de France in the 90s. I grew up watching him, and I got to meet him after a few times, and it was a big inspiration. And in triathlon, I would say Ivan Rania, because he meant a lot to me in my early days.
Yeah, brilliant. Javi, is there a mantra or regular self-talk that you use in competition or hard training sessions?
No, I always try to say to myself in competition that, when you're hurting, that the guys around you, if there's any, they are hurting as well. They are probably hurting more than you, and try to give positive messages to yourself, and then you are prepared to, to suffer for a bit longer than them. So I guess I didn't invent that saying, but the one that, lasts a bit longer and that suffer is going to win probably.
Yeah, gosh, powerful. Your best recovery tip, Javi?
A good meal is the most important, I think.
Fueling.
Some good food and fueling straight away after the training, and I really like to ice my legs as well. The cold water, I feel that helps me a lot as well.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Javi, one word to describe your racing style.
One word, efficient.
I think many would agree. Javi, how would you describe being in the zone?
Being in the zone is, for me, being totally focused on what I'm doing, regardless what's happening outside. And sometimes I can achieve that in the race, and sometimes not. Sometimes I see what's happening around. I can see the crowd or these people or the other one, and other times I don't remember even if there were people cheering or not. I'm just completely focused on what I'm doing, and so for me, that's being in the zone, when I'm only listening to my body, my rivals, and totally in the moment, not caring at all what's happening around me.
Powerful. I think one of my favorite finishes in triathlon ever was your and Jonny Brownlee's epic sprint finish, which is a bit of a YouTube sensation for epic triathlon finishes. And, Alistair stops on the other side of the road, cheers for Jonny to get there, and you get Jonny on the line. I think, was that 2014 or 15 in London?
I think that was 2013, the grand final. And that was one of those moments of being in the zone, in the way that, I was racing in London. The crowd was so loud, obviously cheering for Jonny, and we were racing for the world title. Then I watched the video and I saw Alistair, cheering Jonny, but I didn't even remember that. I don't recall of that happening. But I was completely focused on choosing the right time to make my move. I was understanding and noticing that we had a bit of headwind, so it was gonna feel long, that sprint. So I wanted to stay behind him as much as possible and try to encourage him to start sprinting a bit too early, which I tried to do a couple of times, and I think he started sprinting too early. And from that moment on, the strategy was simple: just try to stay behind him and off the win, and just pass him the last few, on the blue carpet if you can, in the last 100 meters. And that's what I did. I had that extra push in the end, and he was struggling that last 100 meters. But I was completely focused on what I was doing, not on the noise around, which was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Jump over, check that finish out on YouTube. It's amazing. And last question, Javi, in the performance round, we know that epic sessions don't make champions, certainly not 2 decades of high performance. But can you recall a standout hard session that you've completed over the years, one that was particularly grueling?
I did some crazy stuff in the pool. I did once 8x200s, holding 202, 203 on leaving time on 230.
Oh,
when I was a better swimmer than now. That was a short course. Yeah, that was a good one. And running the classic 8x1K around average 242 pace, something like that. Starting a bit slower and finishing a bit faster. And I've done great sessions on tired legs, and I think I was probably not the fastest runner ever, but when I was in my best times in ITU, I could run quite quick off the bike, pretty close to my best running ability. So that was a good thing for triathlon.
Yeah, that fatigue resistance. Javi, well done. You're out of the performance round. And 2 final questions. Javi, every guest of the show gets asked to issue, listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Javier Gomez's physical challenge going to be to listeners? You can go hard on us or you can go easy on us. What's it going to be?
Yeah, challenge in terms of training, I don't know. Try to do a good track session. I don't know, something like 6x1K at the best average.
Well,
that hurts.
And
try to pace. you have to be able to do the last one as fast as the first one.
Stay consistent. All right. Javier Gomez's 6x1K track challenge with consistent pacing across the intervals. And Javi, if you could boil everything you've learned, and you're still learning, like you said at the top of this recording, you're learning now about long course, all the nuances there. But if you could boil everything into one piece of advice to help listeners perform at their physical best, what would Javier Gomez's single piece of advice be?
It might be a topic, but it's consistency. I mean, especially, I think professionally we are more consistent, but sometimes I see with amateurs or age groupers that they do a great session one day and then they are tired the next day, they are not motivated, they might not train. And sometimes it's better, you don't have to break your records every day, just do the job, do the training. If you have a bad day, I understand that it's fine to go a couple of seconds slower, but it's much better doing it than not doing it, unless you feel too tired or you're sick or something. But, that consistency day in, day out, that's the most important, more than breaking records in every session or every now and then.
Gosh, that's powerful. You don't have to break records every day. We've all fallen into that trap.
Yeah. I've been there too.
It's encouraging to know that even greats like yourself have made that mistake. Javi, you're very gracious with your time. Thank you for your contribution to the show. Thank you for your contribution to the world of endurance sports, particularly triathlon. You've inspired so many and continue to do so. So we wish you all the best for 2022 going forwards, and we all will follow the journey with great interest. Big changes for you as well. New bike sponsor as well, Orbeo, and lots of exciting things for you this year. Santini, you've joined the family.
Yeah, lots of changes this year. Not only the coach, but also sponsors. And the cycle, and starting now with Orbeo, with Santini, and they've been great. I'm really proud to represent a Spanish brand like Orbea, which is very big in Spain, and they have great bikes. I've spent time in the wind tunnel, on the velodrome, testing, and the bike is really quick. I feel really comfortable, and it's going great. The guys from Santini as well. I feel like already part of the family, even though we've only been working together for a few months. So it's exciting times. I needed that change in everything. I feel like a young kid again. Doing something different, long distance, which is almost like a new sport for me, with a different coach, with new sponsors. So it's quite exciting. Yeah, I needed that.
The reinvention of Javier Gomez. World will take notice. Thank you for your time, Javi.
No, thanks for having me. It was great to be on the show. Thank you.